I know I just keep adding. I'm sorry. But I had a development I want to share with you. One thing I forgot about on these Macs, so I just want to turn this up a little bit. Oops, I think that song. So right now, I'm only getting sound out of one channel. So sometime, because these boards they're removable, they just sit in grooves. Those grooves will the board will get a little bit loose in there, and if you tap it, you can get the sound. So basically I had both channels a minute ago, and there's some popping going on, so I bet with as much corrosion as this has, these boards, those contacts need to be cleaned, these contacts need to be cleaned. So I will do that. But I just tapped up here somewhere, and I got both channels. And I can hear it popping in and out. So, and then I've got this is making some other noises. So we still have a ways to go on this, but I'm feeling a little more optimistic, knock on wood, about this Mac, that I at least got a little bit of sound. And I was getting sound out of AM on the left channel, so what you were hearing was out of the right channel on auxiliary. So again, I'm feeling a little bit better about this. So enough mess around with this today. I've got other things to go and do, but yeah, feeling a little bit better about it. All right, we're rolling into part 2 on this. So I'm diagnosing the intermittent channel, and I'm finding a couple of things that are kind of interesting. So number one, if you're not familiar with how these boards work, and I think I explained this in my other Mac 1900 video, they slide in, right? They're connected through connectors, so you can pop them out, right? So look at this. Look, see where it's got the metal little fingers here, little fins here. Those have to make contact, good contact, within that socket. This screw on that one is missing. There's definitely some corrosion on these boards. So what I am doing is just moving the two boards, swapping them back and forth. See, look at the corrosion on that. That transistor right there does that have a broken leg? Oh my goodness. Check this out. See if I can get in there. See this transistor right there? Can you see that broken leg? See if I can pull it back and you can see it. It's got a broken leg. Well, that would make one of the channels a little inconsistent. So what I was going to do is just kind of pop these boards, move them back and forth, and see if I could identify something, and it appears that I have. Also, look at this capacitor. Man, what a mess. It's like blown out the side. So I think we are into rebuild territory. So yeah, I'm going to see what that transistor is there and see if I have any replacements for that. I'm not sure what that is. I have to look at this board. And there were a lot of manufacturing variations in 1900s, so it's hard telling what's supposed to be on that board. And I'm going to put it right back to where it was, and that is the left channel board. So when I tapped it, that must have been really close to making contact, that leg, and that's why it came back on. So the plot thickens. So I'm going to leave this part. I've got another project. I wanted to kind of jump on this just to see, because seemed like a fun concept. So I'm going to pick it back up when I do some research on that transistor, and see if we can get this thing going. All right, back to the McIntosh. I'm trying to get this camera situated. Apologize for that. Again, my mount, I need to get a new mount. I just need to get a new mount. All right, so we're back to the Mac 1900. As you can see, I have a board marked here. I want to show you something. So here was the issue. And, oh, I'm sorry. These are the preamp boards. I'm sorting out stuff in the preamp section and the amplifier section, and it's the amplifier board that I wanted to talk about. So here we have, right, so this is the right channel amplifier board. Here is the left channel amplifier board. If you look at these, are the driver board, power amp board, I think is what it's called. Let's see, what is it called here? Power amp. Preamp. Yeah, I think it's power amp. Power output board is what it's called. If you look at this position here, we have a germanium transistor. In this position here, I have a diode. This germanium transistor is actually installed in the board like a diode. So looking at the board layout, or the PCB in the service manual, right, we have the emitter in this position, and then we have the collector and the base actually occupying the same opening. So basically those two legs come together, base, collector, and then the emitter is down at the bottom. Right? So the problem with the one that was on this board was that the legs were rusted, because this thing has a ton of corrosion. And it took me forever to figure out what would work there, because you can't find these germanium transistors. What I did is I had to go to the service manual. The service manual that I have, the part number is 132079. However, you can also use part number 132098. And that was just through a bunch of forum threads that I went through to try to figure out what on earth I could put in that position. I found one company that makes a diode that supposedly is recommended by McIntosh to go in that position. It's an MBR 120P. Now, in some of the threads, people say that they reached out to McIntosh and said, hey, what do we put here? And McIntosh came back with this. I reached out to McIntosh, never heard anything back from them. I can tell you, though, that putting that in that position, I now have a working channel. Now, I'm going to replace that part in both channels, but I'm going to hold on to that germanium transistor. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to recap. There are only a couple of capacitors that I can really replace here. I'm going to recap both of the amplifier boards. I'm going to leave all of the other transistors in place. I'm going to pull this germanium transistor and put a diode in its position. You can see the orientation of the diode there in case you have to do this. Right? So that's how the diode is oriented. That's how they came. Right? You can barely see the stripe. Right? You know how diodes have a striped end, right? When you're talking about anode and cathode, right? So this has the striped end towards the top of the board. I am so sorry, this camera that I have, this new camera, is so touchy. So you can kind of see the orientation there. So what I'll do is I'll probably just recap this off camera. Oh, well, maybe I will film it. I can just slide this out of the way and I'll work on these two boards. I'll pull that one transistor, then I will test to make sure everything's good. FM has an issue on this. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. But again, this was that Goodwill, eBay. Honestly, I shouldn't have bought it. It was against my better judgment to buy this one. I didn't. It's in pretty rough shape. But anyway, maybe I'll... I don't know what I'll do with it. But anyway, let me get to recapping these boards and replacing that transistor. Let me get my capacitor tester and see how these things are in such bad shape. Like, look, they're just falling apart. I don't know that I've seen capacitors in that bad of condition. I'm wondering just how bad they are. Because these were, what were these? I don't even remember. 260, I think they're either 180 or 220. I'd have to look at the schematic, but I replaced them with 220. I want to say they're 180 or 200 or something like that. But this one's 264. Let me just look real quick. I don't know if the PCB, it doesn't really say what it is. No, it gives a part number, C402. What the hell? There is one cap on here that looks like it's a bipolar, so I won't be able to do anything with that. So it says 150. Yeah, it says 150. So I think in my parts kit for the other 1900 I got 220, I think. So that was one of them. The other one is 281. Oh no, these are marked 220. I couldn't tell on the other one. So these are 220/63. This was 281. The other one was 264. So actually the one that was in worse condition was a little bit closer to what it was supposed to be. At least in terms of capacitance, and these are 470s. $662. And these are also in pretty rough shape. $831. That's a little bit high. So the only cap that I didn't replace, well, there's this little green cap here. I'd have to look up the specs for this. I can't really tell what it is. It looks like it's a 1.525. I'll probably keep those with the originals, but this 1040 here, it says BLP, and then when I look at the circuit board diagram, it shows that it's there's no plus or minus, so I'm assuming that is bipolar or non-polarized, whatever. All right, so I'm gonna put these back in and test it. Right now I'm just testing on AM because, as I mentioned, FM doesn't seem to be working. So let's put in these. You know what I'm going to do first? I'm going to make sure these slots are nice and clean. So I'm going to get some contact cleaner down in there. I'm going to zoom the camera out a little bit, and I'm going to work on cleaning those slots up a little bit. So what I typically do is just hit them with some contact cleaner. I think you saw me, I was just kind of working them back and forth a little bit. I mean, I've used brushes before and some other things, but typically that will get them. This board is marked because I thought it was bad, but I cleaned this slot yesterday because there was some popping, and I thought maybe there's a bad transistor here, but I don't think that is the case. You know what, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this, make sure it's good, and then I'm going to clean these boards up because they're just kind of disgusting. So what I want to pay attention to is the dim bulb over here. Make sure I don't have anything goofified on it. Sure did. So that's good. And, oops. That was loud. And that was kind of the pop that I heard yesterday. So let me make sure all these are seated in there. And I got everything oriented correctly. So let's try that again. Yeah. Whoops.
Or when you all.
Now that's really strange. This thing is like freaking possessed by the devil. Again, I think I'm gonna get screwed on this one. So you notice I didn't change anything besides the capacitors. I'm going to move these boards around, see if that pop follows. And see what happens. It's a pretty loud pop though. Whoa. See, this is what it did yesterday. I don't understand. But then if I move this board around a little bit, then it's fine. So something is shorting when I put these boards in all the way.
By Feeding America and Council.
And now I'm getting good sound out of both channels.
Steve used courage, wisdom, and camera phone.
And it's actually
Way to go, Steve!
fairly...
By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents,
The-
Steve can all...
The power volume control has the normal mistracking issue, which sucks. But so what I want to do is I want to pull these out. I'm going to clean them up. I'm going to reinstall them. I'm going to secure them. I don't know why. What would cause it to show a short when I push this down all the way? I may have to look up underneath and see what's going on. But I'm going to clean these up real good and put them back in. I'm not going to do that on camera because I'll be honest with you, I don't like stooping over my bench because that's kind of how I have to do it with where my camera is positioned. So I'm going to do that off camera. And then I think I'm going to call the amplifier boards good for now. I'm going to check for cracked solder joints too. I don't see any, but you never know. There might be a couple on here. I'm going to run some new solder in this and kind of work on it for a little bit. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say that this segment is good for now. I may tack looking at the preamp boards onto it, but if not, I'll go ahead and say it. If you like what you see, like it, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video. So actually, I want to tack on just a few minutes to this segment here. I want to show you a couple of things that I didn't notice before. Well, number one, so here's the bad germanium transistor. As you can see, it's missing a leg, so that's why I lost the channel. Here's the good germanium transistor. You can see the two legs tacked together at the top. But if we look at these boards, I want you to notice a couple of differences. I mean, although everything is the same value, these like emitter resistors or these cement resistors. I'm not sure if they're emitters or not. Blue, white, gray, black. Now, I guess they could have production changes, but it would be odd to me that would occur. So I wonder if one of these boards was not replaced at one point in time. And then look at the status. This is the side that was popping. Look at the status of all of these traces. I had to clean this, and I still have to do a little bit, but these are like super sketchy. So I had to do a little bit of work on that one. So I'm going to connect or plug both boards in, pop them in here, screw them in. And I want to say this board is, I think the boards are different colors too. Let's see. Yeah, one's like green. This is green, this is blue. Bizarre. I'm not sure how common that is with McIntoshes. I don't recall seeing that. And I've worked on several 1900s. So, kind of odd. All right, well, I'm going to call this segment good. Hopefully I don't have to check back in with any major issues. I'm going to seat those, test them. They turn on okay. There's that pop though. That pop is actually coming from that board. So I may have to track that down, but it was also maybe just a pop when I turned it off. We shall see. All right, so anyway, now, if you like what you see, like, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Hey, just wanted to tack this on to the end of the Mac 1900 video series. So what I've decided to do with the Mac, this eBay Mac, is use it as my garage receiver. So I haven't done anything beyond what has been shown in parts 1, 2, and 3. FM is still not working. I haven't recapped it. I get great sound out of both channels. I've been listening to it for a couple of months now. Almost, I'd say probably 3 or 4 days a week when I have time to come and work in the garage. I've been listening to it. It does have the volume control issue where the channels don't track, and I don't really care because I can get it to where it centers, which is fine. I listen to a lot of podcasts and AM radio. I do listen to FM occasionally. So what I've done is I am streaming, right, my Echo Dot through auxiliary, and I can pull down any FM stations local that I want to. But again, I do a lot of AM and podcasts, and AM does work on this. So it still can function as a radio, right? So anyway, I will probably do something to this in the future, when I start to, maybe if I get bored, if I get some time, I will jump into the FM section on this, maybe work on recapping it, going in and doing whatever I need to do to it. But for right now, that's where it is. That's where it's going to stay. And I'm just going to continue to use it. So, as always, if you like what you see, like it, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next video.